Welcome to this presentation on Charm European University. So in this short presentation, I'd like to present a case study that describes how within Charm EU we used transdisciplinary, trans-institutional, pan-European knowledge-creating teams, so groups of academics and extra-academic actors, to design and develop a Masters in Global Challenges for Sustainability. So in this presentation, you'll see for each PowerPoint slide, there's an audio which you can click on in the bottom right-hand corner that will describe the slide to you. My name is Gemma O'Sullivan. In 2020, I led the curriculum design in close partnership with Dr. Tim Savage, a principal investigator of the Charm EU research project at Trinity College Dublin. I'm also a doctoral candidate in my final year at the School of Education at Trinity College Dublin, and my research focus is transdisciplinary university and curriculum design. My co-authors on this presentation are Silvia Gallagher, Research Fellow at Trinity College Dublin, and Sanne van Vugt, Educational Scientist at Utrecht University, one of our partners in the Charm European University Initiative. I'd just like to describe what Charm EU is. So Charm EU is a pilot university alliance. It's funded by the European Union through the first call of the European Universities Initiative. So the aim of the European Universities Initiative is to bring together a new generation of creative Europeans able to cooperate across languages, borders and disciplines to address societal challenges and skills shortages faced in Europe. Charm EU comprises 5 universities: Trinity College Dublin, Utrecht University, University of Barcelona, University of Montpellier, and Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest in Hungary. The goal of Charm EU is to pilot a transdisciplinary university structure through the creation of a master's programme in global challenges for sustainability. And I'd just like to... The question we posed ourselves then in this case study was how to transparently and equitably utilise the research and educational resources, including the staff of 5 universities, to create a transdisciplinary, challenge-based master's programme focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the European Green Deal. In order to do this and create this transdisciplinary programme, we then asked ourselves, how would we create a dynamic transdisciplinary staffing structure that draws on the multiple disciplines from all partner universities and connects with extra academic actors. So our desired outcomes in both were to implement the principles of transdisciplinarity, which I'll speak to in a moment, to engage extra academic actors, to maximise the knowledge base and strengths of partners, to utilise existing teaching staff from partners, and to connect the curriculum with the research activities of partners. So we completed a literature review on transdisciplinarity in education and also in research. As you are probably aware, there are a proliferation of definitions of transdisciplinarity, and I suppose aligning the aims of the original European University, Charm itself, with transdisciplinarity, there were a number of key principles that crossed both. So at the core of these, the team felt that global challenges are themselves complex problems. So they cannot be solved simply. They require equally complex networks of people, ideas and actions. And universities comprise complex networks of ideas, people and actions, but to do this within one programme and within a supra-university structure, we needed simplicity and flexibility. So at Charm EU, transdisciplinarity means that we pivot our focus on a challenge. We bring multiple disciplines to bear on that challenge. We master complexity and we develop that key competency in our students and our staff. We're action-oriented and we work with extra academic actors. So extra academic actors are on a level with academic actors, with our academic community within universities. They are member individuals or groups of individuals from social and traditional enterprise, from government, non-government sectors, from community organisations, from neighbourhoods, from across the breadth of society. So the competencies then of Charm EU students in KCT, I'll speak in a moment about the knowledge creating teams that were the flexible structure that we brought together to bring multiple disciplines from universities. So the competencies actually we needed to develop in students were the same as those that we needed to develop in staff. So our members of our knowledge creating teams came with different levels of expertise in transdisciplinarity. So what we wanted to do was to give our students and our staff the skills to identify knowledge gaps and disciplinary solutions. So to work in multidisciplinary teams, to define problem spaces within key themes, to co-create inter and transdisciplinary modules, to educate students on these problem spaces, and in our students and in our staff to understand challenge-based learning. So it's inter and transdisciplinary research and learning brought together, focused on a challenge, working with external stakeholders and mastering complexity. So they were our framework for, I suppose, developing our programme learning outcomes, and the framework that we used also to support the workshops where we brought staff from across the 5 universities together to create the master's programme. A little bit about the process that we engaged in. So we first identified challenges. So, I mean, there are multiple societal challenges, both in policy and actively, I suppose, in society, articulated in all sectors. We performed a data analysis of the 5 universities' research and educational activities, their performance in education and research, and their strategies as connected to sustainability, transdisciplinarity, the UN SDGs and the European Green Deal. So from this data analysis, we were able to identify a number of thematic areas where the university partners had critical mass. So they had the staffing, they had the research funding, they had citations, they had publications, they had institutes, they had programs, they had modules. And from these, we presented this shortlist to senior academic leaders across the 5 universities, and they nominated 3 thematic areas. So those were food, water, and life and health. So in the second phase, we performed an outreach series of events to the academic community across the 5 universities. So the recruitment approaches were tailored depending on the institutional and cultural context of the partner university. And our goal was to recruit multidisciplinary curriculum design teams, but also teams that would form research communities and networks. So we used online town halls, official communications, snowball samplings. We published calls for participation. We had fora, and we had direct contact with staff. So our success, I suppose, was demonstrated in the large number of academic staff who registered as KCT members. In fact, more than the people who attended the fora actually registered. So we had 188 staff registered to become members of our knowledge creating teams, our KCTs. This represented 75 disciplines in total. So from philology to physics to media to medicine to engineering to social work, economics and ecology. So when they self-identified to join these KCTs, they were presented with a choice of 2 levels of membership, core and expanded network. So the core were obviously responsible directly for delivery design, for content design, and for engaging with the expanded network, so those extra academic actors. The expanded network then were those who would not be able to commit so much time, but were willing to be there as mentors, as panelists, as guest speakers, as content advisors, indeed to review the material produced by core to identify disciplinary gaps, and to create a network, a vibrant network that's flexible and nimble enough to shift in response to the particular focus of a programme at any given time or a challenge. We then organised a series of content creation workshops in July 2020, and within the space of 3 weeks, these KCTs, so they were 4 groups of 10 plus a capstone team, and I'll talk about the degree structure shortly, they wrote a master's programme in 3 weeks, and they did this remotely during the pandemic. We facilitated them. We had 2 facilitators per group. It was performed completely online in Microsoft Teams. Their communication was through email and Microsoft Teams also. But the Charm EU team acted as facilitators in that process. So the output was a very high-level transdisciplinary content for 12 modules. So you'll see on the left here are the knowledge creating teams. The example I give here is food, the KCT core, so that you give an idea of the disciplines represented there. And on the right is the curriculum design blueprint, one of the key outputs of the CHARM-EU project. And this master's is scheduled to run in September 2021. And in fact, the team are currently on the detailed delivery design stage. So what learning activities will happen week on week to support the delivery of these modular learning outcomes. And you'll see here there are 3 phases to the master's. Preparatory phase, so those are the competencies and the disciplinary knowledge needed to prepare students to become challenge managers, if you like. The people who can, in the flexible phase then, choose a challenge area, whether that's life and health, water or food. And in the final phase, in the capstone phase, they work directly with extra academic actors on a specific real life challenge. So in phase 1, we're looking at micro challenges that are there to enable a sort of a spiral model of learning, where they, for example, have 3 modules in the first phase. They're social innovation, sustainability, and transdisciplinary research. They return again and again to those learning outcomes throughout the programme. But in the first phase, micro challenges are used to test out some of these skills in order to inform their own learning development, their portfolio development over the course of the programme. And in the second phase, our KCTs bring them through a theme, and within those themes, our KCTs chose problem spaces, and they were facilitated to do this in their workshops. And within those problem spaces, then there were 3 modules identified. So in the final phase, then the capstone, those challenges will relate specifically to one of those modules, or in fact, they could be a cross-cutting challenge that was identified in phase 2. And extra academic actors are brought into every stage of the programme. Students were key to designing this programme. They were part of the curriculum design team at CHARM-EU. They were consulted at every stage of the process. And even throughout the programme, they have opportunities to co-create through identifying micro-challenges initially, working within those problem spaces to begin the identification of a real-life challenge in the middle, and then finally in the capstone phase, rolling their sleeves up, as it were, to propose solutions to those challenges. What lessons did we learn? We learned that the knowledge creating teams themselves can create challenges in resourcing across 5 universities. So there's obvious modifications in resource distribution in different partner institutions. So this is representing 5 different countries with 5 different models. There are different cultural contexts and institutional contexts of partner universities. We needed to be carefully manage those when designing recruitment and communication with KCT members, and indeed across the whole project management team. We found that facilitation was vital. Having a neutral generalist to facilitate, whether that might be an educational scientist, but it is an individual with training in transdisciplinarity, with an understanding of curriculum design, transdisciplinary curriculum design, with an understanding of the successes and failures within this model of design internationally, who could support our knowledge creating teams, because from the very beginning this was a transdisciplinary process. So we began with challenges and from there brought in disciplines rather than vice versa. And this reflected the research that exists at the moment about successful inter and transdisciplinary research teams, that a neutral facilitator is vital. So it's instrumental that disciplinarians are allowed to represent their discipline. Of course, they're supported in integrating other viewpoints, in having the communication tools and the digital spaces to be able to meet and negotiate and discuss. But it was vital that somebody neutral was there in order to ensure that there was that helicopter view. That was also a key skill that our own academic teams in the KCTs wanted to develop, was that they wanted to add this skill set to their disciplinary depth. So it wasn't to replace disciplinary depth with transdisciplinarity, but that it's another skill set that can be used to ensure that their own research has impact and that it's connected in a very dynamic flow with what is happening in society around them at all stages, and that students feel that dynamism. So finally, the development of KCTs definitely maximise the knowledge base and strength of partner universities, and that network and the success of that network, and in fact the collegialities that our members, our KCT members, described and felt, even remotely and working in a pandemic, was really very heartening and impressive, and I think really lent an air of cohesion and determination to the process, which allowed them to design this programme in such a short period of time. So we were able to utilise existing teaching staff from partner universities, and we were able to connect the curriculum with research activities of all partners. And in doing this, we successfully implemented the principles of transdisciplinarity and engaged extra academic actors. So I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this presentation today, and I look forward to your feedback at the conference in February, and to learning, in fact, from the practice within your own universities or within your own enterprises or community sectors. And thank you very much.